If you don't have a passport yet, you need to get one as soon as possible. Many cities now require an invitation letter to process your passport application. Although obtaining a passport is a citizen's right, it's becoming increasingly difficult in many provinces. To stop complaining about visa difficulties, many people can't even get their passports, or their employers have taken them away. If you have the means and the awareness, I suggest obtaining a passport from another country as a backup. Dongguan is experiencing a surge in outbound travel. Even the government didn't expect so many people in Guangdong to choose to apply for visas. You might not believe it, but according to immigration data, hundreds of thousands of people have been applying for visas in just a few months. Even more surprisingly, over 50% of them didn't choose popular destinations like Spain and Italy, but instead opted for Turkey. In recent years, the overall number of outbound trips from China has grown rapidly. Official data shows that during the 2025 Chinese New Year period, the number of outbound and inbound trips nationwide reached 14.366 million, of which 7.671 million were mainland residents, a 5% increase compared to the same period last year. Guangdong, as one of China's most populous and economically vibrant provinces, has a particularly high proportion of residents traveling abroad. Guangdong residents, having long been located in one of China's most open regions, have frequent exchanges with Hong Kong, Macau, and Southeast Asia, fostering a going-out mentality. Now, against the backdrop of an economic downturn, compared with residents of inland provinces, Guangdong residents are more inclined to seek new development opportunities abroad. Guangdong was once the world's factory, but in recent years, the relocation of manufacturing and export difficulties have led to frequent factory closures. For some middle-class individuals, this economic uncertainty has fueled a wave of immigration from Guangdong. It's unbelievable that tens of thousands of wealthy people in China immigrate after making money each year. What's even more frightening is that 60% of these wealthy individuals already possess multiple passports. Although most still retain their mainland household registration, their wealth has almost entirely been transferred to offshore channels, trusts, and other similar arrangements. By 2025, these 50 regions will no longer allow travel abroad. Whether for tourism or work, have you noticed that many areas are no longer issuing passports? Many workers who consulted us wanted to go on aid projects, go to Singapore, etc., but when they went to apply for passports there, they couldn't get them. The reason is that many of those who went abroad didn't return. They stay there illegally. In the future, more regions may be restricted, with increasingly more conditions and stricter checks. So, if you don't have a passport yet, hurry up and apply. Get one if possible. A list of the most difficult regions to obtain passports. You'll never guess the number one. Suzhai twin Liaoning. No matter whether you're a tourist working or have a legitimate company providing your documents, it doesn't work. I don't know why. Does anyone know the specifics? Have you noticed that those friends who easily get US visas always have passports densely covered with stamps? This isn't a coincidence. When you hand a passport full of stamps from various countries to the window of the US consulate, you don't need to say much. The visa officer already has a basic trust in you. Those stamps tell your travel stories. You've seen the night view from the Tokyo Tower. You've had coffee on the streets of Paris. You've seen penguins in Australia. All of this proves you're a true globe traveler. And the US? It's just the next stop on your travel bucket list, not the final destination. The blogger says that if you're worried about being rejected for a US visa, you might as well take your passport to other countries first, making it substantial and valuable. Then you'll find that the door to the US visa is opening for you. Therefore, before applying for a US visa, it's best to have a few stamps in your passport, rather than applying for a blank passport. Why are some people willing to spend a lot of money to buy a passport from a small country? Aren't passports from large countries more appealing? Look at those people on social media who fly to Europe and Southeast Asia for business every day. Aren't you wondering why they never have to go through the hassle of getting visas when they travel abroad? They basically have another passport. Actually, choosing a passport from a small country isn't just a random choice. Take the Turkish passport, for example. First, it's one of the few things you can get in one step by simply paying money without going through complicated procedures or having particularly high requirements. It's very friendly to people like us who want to save time. The blogger mentioned that the second advantage of a Turkish passport is visa-free travel to more than 140 countries and regions worldwide. Whether you're attending a conference in Europe or conducting business in Southeast Asia, you can simply take your passport and go, significantly saving time on visa applications. Furthermore, Turkey is an ally of the US, and holding this passport also allows you to apply for a US E2 visa, making immigration to the United States relatively easier. Why are passport applications sometimes rejected the first time? This has a lot to do with how you fill out the forms. First, don't fill in Southeast Asia, Africa, or other countries at war as your destination. These are very sensitive regions, and if you do, your application will be rejected 99% of the time. Second, for the purpose of travel, always choose tourism, not study or employment. Even if you are going abroad to study or work, don't choose this. If you do, the staff at the passport office will ask you to provide relevant documents. The blogger says that, for example, if you're going abroad to study, the staff at the passport office will ask you to provide an admission notice and other relevant materials. If you're going abroad to work, they will also ask you to provide relevant company certificates and fill out various forms, making the procedures relatively cumbersome. But if you choose tourism, you don't need to prepare these documents. If you fill in these two options correctly, your passport should be issued quickly. Many fans told this blogger, "Teacher Wang, I'm restricted from leaving the country due to debt. I want to go abroad to work and earn money, but I can't get a passport now, whereas I could before." The blogger responded, "That's right, the country has now begun implementing this policy, and court judgments are now linked to the immigration system." Many people say that high-end consumption was restricted a long time ago. People have already been sentenced, and the judgment has consistently imposed restrictions on their entry and exit from the country. However, this restriction was enforced until May of this year when it began to take effect. If you've already been restricted from high-end consumption and the court has ruled in your favor, then you won't be able to obtain a new passport. Previously, this restriction wasn't enforced. The court's judgment and entry-exit restrictions weren't linked. Now they are. In the first 3 quarters of this year, Guangdong, a major economic province in China, saw its GDP grow by only 4.1% year-on-year, again falling below the national average. This means that Guangdong has lagged behind the national average for several consecutive quarters, highlighting the difficulties this economic engine has encountered. Faced with the double blow of a sluggish domestic economy and sluggish exports, Guangdong's manufacturing sector is facing a new wave of bankruptcies. It's closed down. Another one is closed down. Factories are lining up to close. How many factories are actually making money? This factory makes SMT machines. The owner invested $300,000 in 4 machines. There's no work. Even the work we have done is unprofitable. It's closed down. Everything's gone. Nothing's left. Finally shut down my die casting plant. I have mixed feelings, but with $14,000 in rent every month tied up, this decision is necessary. Survival in this market is more important than anything else right now. Closing the die casting plant isn't about giving up, but about lightening the load and concentrating all our resources on our core LED light source packaging business, making it refined, specialized, and strong. Everyone says we're just enduring it now, and it really is just that, enduring. This blogger is a female business owner, and she feels a lot of pressure right now. I feel like my emotions are all messed up right now. Today is July 3rd, and in just a few days this month, one after another, news of businesses closing down, going bankrupt, and going out of business. It really makes me feel really sad. I feel anxious now, and sometimes I feel like I can't breathe. I wonder how your business is doing today. Has the peak season arrived as expected this year? Our peak season is in September this year. After 2 busy months in May and October, November suddenly turned into a cold winter. Order volume was basically the same as the off-season months of May, June, and July, which is very unusual. However, I saw the sales data from Black Friday in the US last week, and it still maintains strong growth. Do you think this is because most of the overseas consumer goods manufacturing has shifted to overseas production?
万想不到。
Unexpectedly, the Canon factory in Zhongshan, which the Japanese had run for 24 years, suddenly announced its closure. At its peak, tens of thousands of people were lining up to get into this factory, simply because the benefits were excellent. Not only were there full social insurance and housing fund benefits, paid leave and free training that was never missed, but the salary was also very high. On-time payments were guaranteed, with zero delays and even no restrictions on resignation. Although the factory is now closing, its 1,600 plus employees are receiving generous compensation. Long-term employees with over 20 years of service and a monthly salary of $900 are receiving $23,000, while new employees are receiving $3,000 to $4,000. It's truly heartbreaking to see such a good factory close down like this. This huge factory, which has been operating for over 10 years, is about to close down. Sisters, I'm so reluctant to part ways soon. Half the year is already over, and I still haven't found a job. I'm lying in my rented room, and the rent I'm paying is 2,000 yuan a month. I studied e-commerce in university, and I've been working in e-commerce ever since. When I graduated, I did live streaming for over a year, then I worked in foreign trade, then worked on TK, and then on Xiaohongshu. And I also worked for Makeduo. My Spanish is at the B2 level. I know Photoshop, AI software, editing software. I can shoot videos and I can take all kinds of pictures, and yet I still don't have a job. I don't understand. The blogger said she doesn't expect a high salary. I just want to find a job that pays $1,000, but it's really hard. In September of this year, Guangdong became a trending topic, with many white-collar workers and migrant workers fleeing the province, tearfully saying, "We'll never come back." Many companies are now laying off employees and cutting salaries, causing a monthly wage that was initially $1,200 to drop to $700. After deducting daily expenses, it's equivalent to earning nothing. Therefore, many netizens with Guangdong IP addresses have shared their experiences saying, "Even I, a Guangdong native, think the wages are low, let alone those outsiders who leave their hometowns to come here." The blogger says that the job market is really not optimistic now. Even for ordinary jobs, one has to submit dozens or even hundreds of resumes. This year, the number of unemployed youth exceeded 23 million, with an unemployment rate of 5.3%, and the number of college graduates reached a record high of 11.79 million. With companies closing down one after another, the pressure to find a job is immense.
Dongguan
used to be the world's factory, the backyard of manufacturing, but in recent years it feels like it's declining. The population seems to be decreasing. Just look outside. There are more and more cars now, but the actual flow of people is definitely incomparable to what it was 10 years ago. What are the reasons? I think it's a combination of factors.
我觉得是综合因素吧。
The blogger said that many business owners left Dongguan because of the US tariffs on China, which became a factor of uncertainty. As a result, many of his friends, whether owners of large or small factories, choose to move their factories to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and other places, resulting in a significant loss of people.
听说了吗？东莞又一间大厂宣布结业。
Have you heard? Another large factory in Dongguan has announced its closure. Dongguan Chang'an Jinbao Electronics China Company Limited, a long-established factory rooted in Dongguan for nearly 30 years, was a Taiwanese-invested enterprise and was once one of Dongguan's top 10 export companies. At its peak, the factory employed tens of thousands of people, and it witnessed the youth of countless workers. It closed on November 18th this year. The production line has been gradually moved to Thailand. Long-term employees received N+1 compensation. The closure of another conscientious factory is truly regrettable. During the heyday of China's low-cost manufacturing, Huozhe town in Dongguan was filled with shoe factories. However, with the escalation of the US-China tariff war, the local low-end manufacturing industry experienced a structural decline. Coupled with the chain reaction of insufficient consumer confidence, many factories are forced to shut down, and surrounding restaurants and shops also struggle to survive. China's high-tech export companies such as Guangdong-based electric vehicle manufacturer BYD are actively seeking opportunities to expand their overseas production bases. Meanwhile, the White House elimination of tax exemptions on small parcels directly impacted Guangdong, as many suppliers for fashion e-commerce platforms like Shein and Temu are concentrated in the region. Guangdong's economic growth rate in 2024 was only 3.5%, failing to meet the target for the third consecutive year and far below the national average of 5%. This has led to public questioning. If Guangdong's growth was only 3.5%, how did the authorities arrive at the conclusion that the national average growth rate reached 5%? One netizen sarcastically commented that the authorities' attitude was to tell the public, "Don't ask, just believe." That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.